Today we are talking about the role that thinking plays in performing tasks that you need to do in your life. And there is the belief that if we set thinking aside, that we will be ineffectual in completing tasks that we need to do. But you might actually find that when you are able to set thinking aside, that you become more efficient in the way you perform tasks, and you tend to go about things in a more sensible and logical manner. So you may have noticed this in your own experience when you are performing a task, when you are doing something that needs to be done. Whether you give it your full attention or not will determine how effective you are in performing that particular task. And the normal state that you would do things in, especially if there's something important coming up, if you have something significant to attend to in the future, in the immediate future, then what tends to happen is you will be thinking, but you won't be thinking about the task at hand. So you'll be thinking ahead of time. An example of this is if you are, let's say, getting ready for work and you've got an important meeting that particular day. So you're getting ready for work and you've got an important meeting, and at the last meeting when you were presenting, there was a person there who was challenging perhaps, and so this time you're a little bit worried about what that person might say, how they might challenge you, how you might react to that. So all of these thoughts are going through your mind about this meeting that's coming up and how you're going to deal with this person, what you could have said last time when they were challenging you, ways that you could perhaps deal with them in this particular instance. What might they say, what criticisms could they come up with, and how might you prepare a rebuttal? And you're doing all of this, you're thinking all of this while you're getting ready for work. And then you notice that you have misaligned the buttons on your shirt. And so you have to undo your shirt and rebutton it. So you weren't giving your full attention to what you were doing in this moment. And still you're worried about this meeting, and you're thinking about the future, and you're trying to prepare. And you go about your day getting ready for work, and you accidentally leave the fridge door open, or you put the milk in the cupboard instead of in the fridge. And you forget to take the external hard drive with you that has your presentation on it. And so you were thinking, and your thoughts and your attention was caught up in your thoughts. You were distracted. You weren't available to your moments. And so you actually don't need to think about what it is that you're doing in each moment of your day, when you do live your life in that way, you tend to be less efficient and you leak energy, so you get more tired and exhausted. You plan for all of these contingencies, which there is a place for planning, definitely. But when you do that, if you do all of that planning while you're trying to get ready for work, or when you're having a coffee in the morning, or when you're driving, you're missing all of these moments. And not only are you missing all of these moments, but the quality of the way in which you approach your doing and these tasks that life has set out for you is significantly diminished. What would happen if you were to just set aside the thinking about what this person might say to you, how the meeting's going to go? If you were to just set aside that and just focus on buttoning your shirt and just give that your fullest attention while you're doing that. And then you take your time and you make your coffee in the morning and give that your fullest attention. The milk ends up in the fridge, not in the cupboard. The fridge gets closed and isn't open all day, and you don't ruin your food and find out that it's ruined by the time you get home. Things tend to go more smoothly. And before you leave the house, you take your time and you're there and you take a breath and you anchor some of your attention and some of your awareness in the body. And you don't need to be caught up in thinking to survey your home and see that the hard drive's sitting on the table, waiting for you to pick it up and take it out with you to your car. So you remember then to take that thing that's crucial for your presentation. And then you're there in your body while you are driving to work. You've prepared your presentation. You're an expert on this topic. You don't then need to keep running over. If you created that topic in the first place, it came from your mind. You know that information. So you drive to work and you get there, and then you find out that the person that you were worried about isn't at the meeting. So there's this belief that we need to be thinking about things and working them out. But what happens is when you just set that aside a little, ideas, creative solutions that you may not have even thought about tend to occur to you. So everything that you need to know in this moment is available to you now. And we know that life isn't happening outside of this moment. It's not possible. I mean, time is something that we can't really fathom. But we do that in the brain, or the mind probably. Let's call it the mind. In the mind, we develop this sense of who we think we are. So in a way, we're carrying with us a conceptual history and this idea of what we think we are based on all of these moments that have accumulated. So there's a cumulative sense of self that we carry with us. However, we're carrying it with us in this moment. So everything that you need access to is here. Because what has happened to you in the past happened as a prior now moment. And what will occur in the future will happen to you as a future now moment. And this is a challenging concept. I mean, we attempt to conceptualize time. So there's a place for that. You know, you have arranged your meeting, your presentation at work at a certain time, and so there is a place for that. But the ultimate reality of who you are isn't that accumulation. That's just stuff that happened that you've either carried with you or you've let it go. And when you really anchor your awareness and your attention into the physical body, which is always now, life is always happening now, when you fully anchor your awareness and your attention here, that's when everything that you need to know is available to you. So if you can allow your attention to just rest a little bit on the physical body, and not let it always be caught in that thinking mind that's trying to, you've got stuff that you need to work out. That's understandable. So give yourself a designated time to work that stuff out, and then give yourself a designated time to just let that go and perform action with your full attention, and watch the quality of your action significantly transform. When you're getting ready for a big meeting, maybe that's just going in the deep end, to perform. Maybe you're ready to do that. Maybe you do want to give your full attention to the buttoning of your shirt. If you have something big coming up, maybe that's the way to help negate any anxiety or worry or concern. So just give your attention to what you're doing now. But maybe that's the deep end for you. Maybe you'd like to start with something simpler, like when you're walking the dog. You don't need to think about that. Can you just look around, listen to the birds, notice the smells of the springtime as the weather starts to warm up? Can you just look at the trees or look at the birds that are flying around and just notice them without having to think about them? Can you just bring yourself to that moment and perform that action of walking the dog while actually being there, available to that moment? I like to do that with cooking. If you've got a recipe, if you're starting a new recipe, it's more challenging. You might have to work some things out. But let's say it's a recipe that you've done 1,000 times and you know it, and it's very easy, it's almost second nature for you, and you don't have to think about it. Can you just look at the ingredients around you, and you know what has to be done? You know that the rice has to go into the measuring cup, and you know how much water to put in. You don't need to think about that. You can just do all of that, and you look and you go, I need to get the tofu out of the fridge. It's not a thought, you just see there's no tofu there, and so you go and you get the tofu. You'd like some broccoli, there you go, you get the broccoli and you start chopping it. So you don't have to think about that if you've done it a million times before. Probably not a million, but if you've done it many times before, you don't need to think about it. So can you be there and turn that into this practice where you become fully available to what it is that you're doing? And what you'll find is, if you are distracted from that task, you might find yourself doing something silly. If you're steaming broccoli, you might forget to put the water into the pot because your mind is elsewhere. I really don't like how that conversation went today. I can't believe she said that to me. Where was she coming from? I'm trying to be a good person. I really don't want to be judgy towards someone, but that really seemed like a nasty comment, So next minute you forgot to put the water in the pot, and you've burnt the bottom of the pot with this horrible smell coming out, and you suddenly come to your senses. you notice this horrible burning smell and you realize that there's no water in the pot, that you've been steaming the broccoli and smoking the broccoli and this is what it means to be present and to set aside the thinking mind. It's not that you're not thinking, it's just you're bringing your alert attention to what it is that you are doing in this moment. You're becoming available to life. You're noticing your life. You're bringing your attention to this. And then, one, it feels so much better when your energy's caught up in the thinking mind. It's just, it's exhausting. And it's unpleasant. It produces anxiety, it produces feelings of sadness, discomfort. But when you bring yourself to the simplicity of the action that you're performing right now, that doesn't need to be thought about, and if you're there available, you're more intelligent in the way you approach those tasks. You remember to put water in the pot of broccoli that you want to steam. And you know exactly what has been done. You just know what you've done because you've been there, you were available, you witnessed it happening. You might find yourself approaching that task of that recipe you've done 1,000 times before in a more creative and more efficient way. You will approach it in a more creative, more efficient way. You'll find better ways to approach that task. It will occur to you how to approach that task in a way that's more sensible, more enjoyable, runs more smoothly. Sometimes, if you're not available to your moment when you're performing a task, you'll find yourself struggling with that task, trying to force things in a way because you're not there. So just take one conscious breath, anchor your attention in your body, and look, be available, and you will see, it will occur to you what needs to be done next, and a really good way to perform that task.